Hello everyone, today I'm going to tell you an incredible story. It's about a man who started from nothing, faced rejection and failure, but still managed to change the entire world. His name? Steve Jobs. If you've ever used an iPhone, a MacBook, or simply admired how beautifully designed a product can be, then you've already touched his legacy. But Steve Jobs wasn't born into success. He wasn't handed anything on a silver plate. His life was full of ups and downs, triumphs and heartbreaks. Yet, he never gave up. This story is more than just a biography. It's a lesson in resilience, creativity, and never-ending hope. By the end of this, you'll feel inspired to chase your dreams, no matter how big or impossible they seem. So, let's dive into the story of Steve Jobs, the man who proved that crazy ideas really can change the world. Chapter 1: The Unwanted Child. Steve Jobs was born on February 24, 1955 in San Francisco, but almost immediately he was put up for adoption. His biological parents were young university students who didn't feel ready to raise him. Imagine that, being given away before you even take your first steps. But life had already chosen a unique path for Steve. He was adopted by Paul and Clara Jobs, a modest couple from Mountain View, California. They weren't wealthy, but they were loving. His father, a mechanic, taught Steve how to tinker with electronics in the garage, unknowingly planting the seeds of innovation. You can't connect the dots looking forward, you can only connect them looking backward. Steve Jobs. Even as a child, Steve was restless and different. He would challenge his teachers, question authority, and always want to know why things worked the way they did. It was annoying to some, but it was the first sign of genius. Chapter 2: The Curious Misfit. At school, Steve wasn't the top student, but he was deeply intelligent. He read widely, meditated, experimented with electronics, and explored Eastern philosophies. He didn't want to follow the rules. He wanted to create new ones. In high school, he met a young engineering whiz named Steve Wozniak, or Woz. The two hit it off instantly. Woz was the genius with the circuits, and Jobs was the visionary with the ideas. After one semester at Reed College, Steve dropped out. Yes, dropped out. But not because he wasn't smart. He simply didn't see the value in following a path that didn't feel right. He stayed on campus, sleeping on friends' floors, collecting Coke bottles for food money, and auditing classes that fascinated him, like calligraphy, which would later shape Apple's beautiful typography. Chapter 3: Birth of Apple, in a Garage. In 1976, Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak started building a small personal computer in the Jobs family garage. They called their company Apple, a name inspired by Steve's fruitarian diet and a visit to an apple orchard. It sounded fun, friendly, and simple. The Apple I was primitive, but the Apple II? It was a revolution. Sleek, user-friendly, and a major commercial success. Suddenly, these two California kids were millionaires. By age 25, Jobs was worth $100 million. But success didn't make him comfortable. It made him more obsessed with perfection. Chapter 4: Rise, Fall, and Humiliation. Steve Jobs was brilliant, but he was also difficult. His perfectionism, passion, and stubbornness caused friction, especially with Apple's board. In 1985, a shocking moment arrived. Steve Jobs was fired from his own company. Yes, the man who built Apple was kicked out of Apple. Imagine the humiliation, the heartbreak, the anger. But here's where most people would give up. Jobs didn't. He called this moment the best thing that could have happened, because it freed him to be creative again. Chapter 5. A Phoenix Rises. Out of failure, Jobs built Next, a computer company with high-end machines. It wasn't commercially successful, but its software architecture was brilliant. He also bought a small animation studio from George Lucas called Pixar. Yes, Pixar. The same Pixar that created Toy Story, Finding Nemo, and The Incredibles. Under Steve's leadership, it became a global giant. He turned a side project into Hollywood magic. When Apple was struggling in the late 90s, they did something bold. They bought Next, and with it, Steve Jobs returned. This time, he came back not just as a tech genius, but as a wiser, more experienced leader. Chapter 6. The Apple Renaissance. Then came the iMac, the iPod, iTunes, and eventually, the iPhone. Jobs didn't just improve products, he reimagined them. He combined technology, art, and intuition in ways no one had done before. He made computers personal. He made music portable. He made phones smart. People don't know what they want until you show it to them. Steve Jobs. He wasn't afraid to be different. In fact, Apple's slogan for years was, "Think different," and the world followed. Chapter 3. The Final Chapter. In 2003, Steve was diagnosed with a rare form of pancreatic cancer. He fought it. He worked through it. He even delayed treatment because he believed in natural remedies, but eventually the disease took its toll. On October 5, 2011, Steve Jobs passed away at the age of 56. The world mourned, not just because we lost a CEO or a product designer, but because we lost a visionary, a storyteller, and a dreamer. Final thoughts. What Steve Jobs taught us. Steve Jobs wasn't perfect. He could be cold, intense, and demanding. But he believed in something with all his heart, that people with passion can change the world. He showed us that even if you start from nothing, even if you're rejected, even if you fail, you can still rise. You can still create beauty. You can still leave a legacy. So the next time you hold an iPhone, type on a Mac, or just dare to dream big, remember this story. Remember Steve Jobs. If this story touched you in any way, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. It really helps me stay motivated to keep sharing more inspiring stories like this. Thanks so much for watching all the way to the end. You're the reason I do this.